Stop! Don't spend that old penny just yet.
Because sitting in your hand could be a tiny piece of American history that looks completely ordinary at first glance. But one unusual detail can make coin collectors stop and take a second look.
Today, we are examining a 1976 Lincoln Memorial penny with no mint mark.
Look at this coin carefully. It has an old, worn appearance. There are dark areas and visible damage around Lincoln's portrait.
And when you see a coin like this, one question immediately comes to mind.
Is this simply an old, damaged penny? Or is there something unusual hiding beneath the surface?
And here's where things get really interesting. You may have seen claims online about 1,976 Lincoln pennies being worth $50,000 or more.
But is this particular coin really worth $50,000?
Or is that just another exaggerated coin value claim spreading across the internet? Today on Coinmaster USA, we're going to investigate this coin from every angle. We're going to look at the date, the missing mint mark, the condition, the damage, possible mint errors, collector demand, and what can actually make a 1976 Lincoln penny valuable. So don't skip this video, because by the end, you'll know exactly what to look for when you find a 1976 penny in your pocket, coin jar, old collection, or even an inherited box of coins. Let's begin. Here it is. The 1976 Lincoln Memorial Cent. This is one of those coins that can easily be overlooked. It's small. It's common-looking. And after decades of circulation, many examples don't look particularly impressive. But that's exactly why collectors examine old coins carefully. The first thing we can clearly see is the date, 1976. And underneath the date, there is no mint mark. Now, some new collectors immediately think, "No mint mark? That must mean it's rare." But hold on. That's not necessarily true. For this regular 1976 Lincoln cent, a missing mint mark is normal for coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint. So the absence of a mint mark by itself does not make this coin rare. But there is something special about the year 1976. It was the year America celebrated its bicentennial, 200 years since the Declaration of Independence. Across the United States, Americans were celebrating the nation's 200th anniversary. And millions of Americans were handling coins during this historic year. The Lincoln cent still carried the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. That means this little penny is connected to one of the most memorable years in modern American history. But historical importance and numismatic rarity are two different things. A coin can be historically interesting without being extremely valuable. And that's an important distinction for every collector to understand. Let's move closer. Look at Lincoln's portrait. You can see noticeable circulation wear. Some of the finer details in Lincoln's hair and facial features are no longer sharp. The surface also has discoloration and areas that appear damaged or corroded. Near Lincoln's head, there is a particularly noticeable dark and greenish area. And this is where we need to be very careful. When someone sees a strange mark on a coin, the first thought is often, "This must be an error." But that's not necessarily the case. A genuine mint error is something that happened during the manufacturing process at the mint. Damage that happens later is something completely different. A coin can be scratched. It can be exposed to moisture. It can develop corrosion. It can come into contact with chemicals. It can be damaged while being stored or carried. And these things generally don't create a valuable mint error. In fact, post-mint damage can make a coin less desirable to collectors. Now we arrive at the number that gets everyone's attention. $50,000. Could a 1976 Lincoln Memorial penny really be worth that much? Here's where you need to separate excitement from evidence. A regular circulated 1976 Lincoln cent with no mint mark should not automatically be valued at $50,000. PCGS reports that the Philadelphia 1976 Lincoln cent had a mintage of more than 4.67 billion coins. That's billions with a B. So a normal 1976 no mint mark penny is not automatically an ultra-rare coin. And that's why simply seeing 1976 and no mint mark isn't enough. The coin would need something extraordinary to justify a massive valuation. That could potentially involve an authenticated mint error, an unusual variety, or an exceptionally high-grade example. And even then, the value would depend on the specific coin and actual market evidence. So if someone tells you, every 1976 no mint mark penny is worth $50,000, don't believe it without evidence. Coin collecting requires verification. So what should you look for? This is where things get exciting. There are several factors that can dramatically affect the value of a coin. The first is condition. A coin that spent decades circulating through thousands of hands will usually show wear. But a coin that was preserved in extraordinary condition can be much more desirable. Collectors often pay premiums for coins with exceptional preservation. The second factor is rarity. If only a small number of examples exist, collectors may compete strongly for them. The third factor is variety. Some coins have recognized die varieties that collectors specifically search for. The fourth factor is mint errors. And this is one of the most exciting areas of coin collecting. A genuine mint error can happen when something goes wrong during the striking or production process. But remember, not every strange-looking coin is an error. And the fifth factor is demand. Even if a coin is unusual, its market value depends heavily on what collectors are actually willing to pay for it. Now let's return to our 1976 penny. The damaged area near Lincoln's head immediately catches the eye. But here's the million-dollar question. Did that feature exist when the coin was struck? Or did it happen later? That's what an expert would want to determine. Imagine a coin leaving the mint perfectly struck. Years later, it falls onto concrete. Someone puts chemicals on it. It sits in a damp environment. Or it gets rubbed against another object. Now it could look extremely unusual. But that doesn't make the damage a mint error. This is one of the biggest lessons for new collectors. Unusual does not always mean valuable. A real mint error needs to make sense based on the manufacturing process. That's why serious collectors don't rely on excitement alone. They examine the evidence. And if you find an old penny that looks like this, there's another very important rule. Do not clean it. Don't polish it. Don't scrub it. Don't use vinegar. Don't use chemicals. Don't try to make it shiny.